Okay, so the second, let me make sure I'm on off mute. Okay, the second part we're going to continue on. So I'll post two videos. I forgot to ask her if she was okay with me recording um recording her presentation, and then she just never had a break for me to like interject. And so, but what did y'all think about that presentation? Oh, that's okay. All right. So let's go back to share screen. Well, I mean, I didn't know. Well, no, I didn't record her video. I stopped the recording from before. So there'll be two different recordings for those of you who came in a little bit late. The first one will be everything that you missed, and then we'll try to get you caught up, and then from this point forward. But sometimes with revenue management presentations, sometimes they might like pull up proprietary information or like information about their hotel. So obviously we don't want to share that and record that. So that's why I always try to ask permission, but I forgot to. So sorry. But what y'all think about the information? Like she said, like economics. Yep. Awesome. I'm glad somebody has Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. Okay. We added up all the group meals that are required. So this particular group wants 105 breakfasts, 80 lunches, and 85 dinners throughout the pattern of their meeting. Okay. And then we figured out our food cost percentage. Okay. And if you have taken my cost control class, you might recognize the triangle, food cost, percent, sales, okay, or menu price. So we took our menu price times our food cost percentage, which gave us our food cost, okay? And then we took our revenue, net revenue was the price minus the food cost. That's how we got that information, okay? And then because oftentimes the group is going to ask for, or either going to have discounted rates or they're going to ask for discounted rates. In this case, our food cost is still the same. So our breakfast still costs us $5.40, doesn't matter what we sell it for. And so we just copy, number 3 is copy the food costs, okay? And then repeat the step 2. So we're going to subtract from the breakfast of $15 to get our net revenue of $960. So if we compare these two numbers together, the net revenue for our transient guests versus our net revenue for our group, the group is going to be lower for the net revenue because they are asking for a discounted price. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So I'll leave that up there just for one more minute so you can make sure you get caught up, have your answers filled in. Okay. Now, for the group, how many breakfasts did we want for the group? It's at the very top. We wanted 105. Okay. You see where they have that 105? And then what is our net revenue for breakfast for the group? $9.60. Okay. How many lunches did they want? And how many dinners? 85. Okay. You see how that comes here? That's the quantity that we want. And then what was our net revenue for lunch? 1116 and 2290. So now we just simply multiply that. So we multiply 105 times $9.60. That means for this particular group, they're going to bring in net revenue, right? We're taking out that food cost. We're going to add that, we're going to take into that account that food cost. And so their net revenue for the group is $1,008. The lunch is $892.80. And the dinner net revenue is $1,946.50. You see how we get those numbers? The number of meals they requested from the very top area times the net food revenue for the group. Okay, again, that's the group is in green, the transient is in blue. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? The group, or so the transient is just a little bit trickier. Okay. The transient is just a little bit trickier. What was our total displaced? Do y'all, anybody have the first page? We went before, this is before spring break. Yeah, it should be that one. Yes. So total displaced was it 60, 15, and 45, right? Okay. So our total displaced is 60 in this case. So we just write 60 all the way down. Okay. And remember, we got this number from the front page. This page right here. Remember this page? What is our formula? It is this plus this minus the rooms in the property. Oh. This is before spring break. Yeah, that's what we did before spring break. So remember, the 15, if it's a negative number here, that means we're not displacing anybody, which means it's a zero, right? We replace that with a zero. So 15 plus 45 is 60. That's how we got that. Okay. So let's go back here. We've got 60 people displaced potentially. What is the net revenue for breakfast for the transient? 1260. Okay. So we're going to put those down here: 1260, 1716, and 2790. That's going to come down there. Okay. Now the only difference, well, the main difference between the displaced guest potential and the group is that when the group is going to be signing, like let's say we've got 150 people, or we know we're going to have 105 breakfasts, the group's going to pay for 105 breakfasts, right? Based on how many people they have coming to their event. But for the transient, we can look and see what we call our capture rate. Okay. So we can look back at our historical data and we can say 85% of our transient guests actually ate breakfast in our hotel. The other 15% did not eat breakfast in our hotel. Okay. We can say that 15% of our transient guests ate lunch in our hotel and 55% ate dinner. Okay. So for this one, what's different is we just multiply straight across. Okay. To get our dollar amount. And remember, we have to make sure we're doing this as decimals, right? So it would be, if you put it into your calculator, it would be 60 guests displaced times $12.60. Okay. But only 85% of them are going to potentially eat. So we're going to multiply by 0.85 and we get $642.60. Okay. So we just multiply straight across. We have that capture rate. So again, in summary, between our group and our transient, we know the group is going to pay. Well, the group's going to pay for it regardless, right? If they only have 100 people show up for breakfast, well, that's not our fault. They're going to pay for 105, right? They're going to pay for it. It's based on their contract. But for transient, that we use that capture rate, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and add all those together. So in this scenario right now for food, it looks like our group's going to bring us $3,847, where our transient that we're displacing is only about 1717. Okay. So we are going to subtract those two numbers. So for food, our total for food for the group is 3847.30. And the transient is 1717. Okay. So on your second page, we've got our little summary right here of our totals. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you need me to explain something else again. Okay. So now we've done food. Let's talk about beverages. Okay. So beverages is on the second page on the back. Well, I was on the top of your second page. Okay. The top of your second page is the beverages. Now, our beverages, we're a very inexpensive hotel at $6 a beverage. Okay. I don't know what hotel is selling, unless it's a soda. I don't know what hotel is selling a beverage for $6. Okay. But just like our food cost, we can have our beverage cost, percentage, and sales. Okay. And so again, we just multiply our $6 times 0.12, which is our 12%. And our beverage cost is 72 cents. That's Kool-Aid. Yep, that's a can of soda, right? And we're gonna sell it for $6. Or beer. Yeah, beer is probably about $1.25 at the most. Yeah, sell it for $6. At my conference in Houston, and they advertised some like reception up at the top floor after the keynote address. And so my coworker and I were like, let's go. It was like $14 for, no, I think it was $16 for a glass of wine. I can Uber Eats like a bottle to my hotel room for this, and that includes the tip, but whatever. All right. So now, again, the same thing. Our net revenue is the price minus the beverage cost. So every time I sell that beverage, my net revenue is $5.28. Price minus the beverage cost. Yep, the menu price minus the beverage cost. Okay. So now, different from the food, we're just going to go ahead and look at the total revenue for the beverages for the group. Okay. So if we look at from our front page, our total for the group is 150, right? If we look right here, 150. Okay. So my total group is 150 and my transient displaced was 60. Okay. So 150 and the transient displaced is 60. The net beverage revenue is $5.28 for both of them because we're not giving them a deal on the drinks. They're not asking for a discount. We're just all buying the same drink. Okay. Now, unlike in the food, in the beverages, we can potentially do a capture rate based on what type of group they are. If it's Alcoholics Anonymous, we're probably going to have a 0% capture rate in beverages. Okay. So 70% in this case, we're going to maybe talk to the meeting planner. If they're teachers associations, I don't know what it is about teachers, but man, especially the high school teachers that I go to conference with, I feel like they're like experimenting like they're 21 years old again. I'm like, calm down. It is just a beverage. But okay. So again, we multiply straight across 70% of the group. So not all of them are going to have a drink. And then the transient, same thing. 40% times the 60. We can look and see, just like we looked at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, about 40% of our transient guests will have drinks in the bar. Okay. Now, this is like having one drink in the bar, right? You could also take into account multiple drinks or whatever, but in this case, we're just going to look at one drink, one beverage. Okay. So now that we have these beverage totals, we can add them to our table down here. So taking into consideration food and beverage both, it looks like our group is going to do about $4,401.70 in revenue compared to our transient 60 displaced of $1,844.46. Okay. So let's go ahead and now subtract those. Again, we always want to do our group total first. Always want to do our group total first. That means our differential is, in this case, we're coming out ahead about $2,500. Okay. Any questions on food and beverage? All right. And then the last part, the third part is the other revenue contributors. Okay. So groups, there's certain things that groups are going to contribute to that maybe the transient guest is not going to contribute to. Okay. It may be things like meeting space, okay? It may be things like AV, audio visual, that goes along with that meeting space. Things that the group may not. But then also we could also do, we're not going to, but we could also do, if we had a spa or a golf course, take that into consideration as well, as far as if the group's going to use that, how does that compare to the usage rate of our transient guests? So there's lots of different factors. This one, we just added up all of these together to get $17,750, okay? So that's our other contributions. Let's look at our room revenue again. Does this one have, oh good, it does have answers. Sweet. If we take into account our room revenue differential from that we did before spring break, if we decided to take this group, we'd have to potentially displace 60 people, okay? But the trade-off for displacing those 60 people is $27,554 in revenue. So you have to ask yourself, is this worth it? Is it worth displacing 60 people? Now, in this case, if you remember, 60 people, if we go back and look at our room revenue, our hotel is only a 100-room property. So we'd have to displace, they're asking for 65% of our hotel on this one day, right? So there's lots of different factors that you'd have to go back in to look at and say, do I want to take this group or not? Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So I'm going to post this video. Now, there are separate videos that are chapter 7 specific. They're pre-recorded. So they're not the live lecture. So you have both of those resources to go back, and there is going to be a displacement analysis assignment. Okay. So I will not post this. I won't post the calculator yet, but as soon as the assignment is done and over, I will post the calculator, and you can you can use it for your own resources if you want to. Let's just do a quick, because everything's in this calculator, let's just do kind of a quick analysis together as a class. So how many rooms does our hotel have? 400? No, we're making it up. Any number. 250. Okay. What rate is the group? What rate is our projected ADR? What's that? 200 plus, give me another number. Higher than that. Okay, 200 plus 300. So $500 is our projected ADR. We're a luxury hotel, okay? Well, semi-luxury, I guess, because Hotel Emma is like 700 a night. That's crazy. But they get it. So the group is coming in and they want what rate? 350. So $150 off of our room rate, okay? Our variable cost, because we are a luxury hotel, is probably going to be a lot higher. So let's go with 50. And we'll keep our franchise and marketing fees together, okay? The same. The group is coming in. Remember, we have a 250 room hotel. Let's do our forecasted first. Diego, how many rooms do we have forecasted on this day? 100, okay. Rosa, anywhere between 100 to 250. 195. And Logan, 210. All right. So now the group is requesting, Audrey, how many rooms are they requesting this first night? 97. Okay. And then Emily, the second night? 85. Okay. And Victor, the last night? 140? Okay. So just looking right off the bat in the room revenue, because they're asking for $150 off the rate, okay, we're displacing 130 people, but the differential in the rooms is $35,000. So even if we give them a discount rate of $150 off of our rate, we'd still come off ahead at $335,000. Okay. So they're asking for 322 total. Okay. So let's now look at our food and beverage. All right. So let's look at lunches. Lunch the first day, breakfast the first day, probably not going to be anything. We might have like maybe 25 lunches for the executive team that's coming in early. And then let's say we're going to do a dinner on that first night. Okay. So breakfast, we'll do 85 and 140. Okay. Lunches, 85 and we'll do 140. We won't do any dinners on the last night. And let's say we're going to do no dinner. I will do offsite dinner. Okay. You know what? Let's do this. They don't want to do any lunches with us. Everything's going to be offsite. Okay. So only breakfast. That's it. Our breakfast. How much is our breakfast, Diego? $30, which means our lunch is going to be higher, 45, and then our dinner is going to be even higher, 60. There we go. Okay. The group's going to come in. They want a discounted rate. So let's just go, let's go $5 off each rate. Actually, they want a $20 breakfast. They're not even going to eat lunch. They're not even going to eat dinner. So it doesn't really matter. Okay. So in this case right here, just on breakfast alone, our capture rate, let's see, breakfast, let's go a little bit higher for our capture rate. Okay. So our food alone, in this case, the transient guests, those 130 transient guests are already going to spend $4,000 more. Okay. And then the average price of our beverage is going to be $20. This group is only going to have a 25 capture rate and our transient 65% capture rate. This, oh, don't tell me, hold on, should equal that. $60, 130. So in this case right here, our transient guests would actually spend more money, giving us a negative balance for food and beverage differential, because our group's like, you know what, we only want to have breakfast. We don't want to eat lunch or dinner at your hotel. Okay. Now in this case, they may not have any other contributions. Okay. So they're going to say $30,000. Is it worth us turning away potentially 130 guests that are willing to pay $500 a night? Is it worth replacing those 130 guests for a profit of $30,000? Probably not. Okay. Now, if y'all remember what Natalie said, yeah, you also look at it's like the forecast is right now, what we're looking at is the forecast of basically based on last year's numbers. Exactly. Yep. Now, in this case, let's say it's a very small group, only 45, 50 people. Okay. Well, we're not displacing anybody. We're not displacing anybody. We're only displacing 15 people on this third day. So 15 people for $30,000, right? Even if we took that $500, those 15 people is only $7,500 in revenue, right? So we're displacing those 15 people to take on these 50, even though they're only eating breakfast in our hotel, but still it's a $30,000 piece of business, right? Differential, right? So there's just lots of different things to consider in this case. Yes.
So my question is that when you do call, are they able to help me right there and then, like I was making a one-night reservation for one person, or is it something you have to take time to analyze? Like, are they quicker now that they're been trained?
So what we're talking about here, displacement analysis, this is for larger groups. So traditionally is going to be for more than just one night. So if you're calling just for one night, you're probably just be calling the regular reservations. Typically, the sales office is going to handle anything more than 10 room nights. Those what they consider a room block, minimum of 10 room nights. And so that could be one night with 10 different rooms, or it could be 2 nights with 5 rooms each night, right? That's a minimum of 10 nights or 10 room nights. So then at that point, the salesperson who's responsible for that. So if let's say you're 250 rooms on peak, meaning if we look at these rooms right here, like this particular scenario is 55 rooms on peak. That's the highest room rate or the room allowance. So if there's a certain salesperson in the hotel that is responsible for less than 200 rooms on peak, more than 200, based on the size of the hotel. So then that person would then contact you. If you were a seasoned and experienced meeting planner, you would send out what they call a request for proposal. And in that request for proposal, that's where you would set this information of this is my booking pattern. Okay, this is my meeting pattern. I want to check in on the 22nd and I want to check out on the 25th. So it'll be 3 nights. Okay, that's my meeting pattern. And then you would say, I'm going to expect 45 the first night, 45 the second night, and 55 the third night. You know, maybe we were bringing in some VIPs or the CEO for the last night's dinner or whatever. I don't know. But, and then that's what you would say. In the past, we have paid $350 for our conference. And so that's the rate that we are requesting. You could also then even break it down to, do we want 45 king rooms or do we want 25 king rooms and 20 doubles? So you can break it down in that fashion as well. So all that information is in that request for proposal. And if the client didn't send that to you, which if they do, that means they're pretty seasoned and experienced. If they didn't, means that they're generally pretty inexperienced. And so if they didn't, then your hotel probably has like a form that you would send to that person and say, here, fill out this information, get it back to me, and we'll see what rate we can get for you. And they are, I mean, it takes not just the salespeople, but it also takes talking to the revenue manager. So for example, the Thompson, Natalie's the revenue manager. My friend Lisa's on the sales team. So Lisa would go to that director of sales and say, hey, I have got this piece of business. This is what they're requesting. Director of sales would take it to Natalie and say, hey, this is what they're requesting. If we look at this scenario right here, it kind of fits within the natural booking pattern. We're not displacing anybody really. So Natalie might say, yeah, let's go for it without even doing a displacement analysis. But if it does get to a point where you're displacing quite a few people, then you have to look at it a little bit more analytically. Good question. Okay. This exam for chapter 7, you can download the thing. It's the exact same file. One is just a PDF. It's easier to open sometimes if you don't have Excel on your computer. So one is a PDF, one's an Excel, but you can open up in whichever one you want, okay? Basically, you're gonna complete the displacement analysis and then just type in those answers in here, those 10 questions, those 10 answers, okay? You will have 10 attempts, okay? You have 10 attempts to get it right. So the first time, go ahead and just do all of them. See what you get, okay? This one, I'm gonna go ahead and make due on April the 6th, so 2 weeks from today. That way you've got a little bit of time. I want you to be able to get those parts 1 and parts 2 pretty comfortable, okay? It is not for an assignment. I will not assign this, but there are some practice. So displacement analysis B and C, okay, as a quiz. If you want to practice this one before you take the test, you can, but you don't have to, okay? Those are optional. Let me put it there so we don't get confused. Optional. All right. So then at this point, no one's really in trouble at this point. We have exam 1, exam 2, and unit 3 exam. These are going to help you with the final exam. Actually, before I say that, let me double check. Because my other class, I thought I had the same exam, but I looked on Tuesday and they changed the exam this time. So let me go, I'll download it today since we're going to end a little early. Let me download the exam for this textbook, make sure it's the same one. And if it is, great, then exam 1 and 2 and 3 will help prepare you for the final exam, okay? There's only 50 questions on this final exam if it's the same one. This book's a lot smaller than all the other books. So it's only a 50 question exam. You should have the red Scantron from the textbook. If you bought it, if you got the textbook new, it should have had the red Scantron in it. That's what you will use to take the final exam at the end of the semester, which will be 7 weeks from today. Isn't that crazy? 7 weeks. Time is going to fly by. All right, let me stop the recording for a second. I'm going to pull up one more thing.